Global economy is on a razor's edge. We are expecting a very sharp downturn this year. This was actually our downside scenario 6 months ago. It is now our baseline. Global growth will be around 1.7%. This is the lowest growth rate outside of global recession since the early 1990s. There are multiple reasons why we have the slowdown. Of course, we have been going through one of the sharpest interest rate cycle. Interest rates have been increasing around the world. You have significant volatility in food markets, in commodity markets. And then, of course, we have a major outbreak in China. China slowed quite considerably. So a confluence of factors driving the slowdown in the global economy. Because of the possibility of inflation remaining elevated, that could trigger financial stress in some emerging market developing economies, and that could also trigger a global recession. We have a major war in Europe still there. Geopolitical tensions could escalate. Food and energy insecurity could be a problem. Social tensions, another major risk. And of course, COVID outbreaks, we cannot basically rule out. Beyond these, we should always keep in mind risk associated with climate change, the higher likelihood of natural disasters, as well as weaker growth outcomes, much weaker than what we are expecting. And there is this broader risk of fragmentation of global trade, investment, financial networks. We need to consider one important risk, of course, further interest rate increases. Global recession risk is material, and in our calculations, further increases in interest rates by major central banks could trigger a global recession, in the sense that per capita global income might end up contracting. Soft landing is not our baseline. Unless we see a significant decline in inflation in a very short time period, global economy will go through a sharp downturn. Without investment, we cannot generate sustained growth. Without investment, we cannot solve the climate change problem. Without investment, we cannot reduce inequality, we cannot reduce poverty. Investment is at the center of economic growth. Over the past decade, investment was slowing. During the pandemic, investment contracted around 70% of emerging market developing economies. And in the near future, we are expecting investment growth to remain subdued. Small states are quite vulnerable, and over the past 3 years, after they contracted by about 11%, they experienced very weak recovery. They're like canaries in the coal mine. They are telling us the type of impact of these multiple crises having on developing economies and what might come next because of how climate change has been affecting these countries. Small states have difficult challenges. They are not diversified. They are basically relying on a small number of items for their revenues. Most of them rely on, for example, incoming tourists. And during the global pandemic, that tourism collapsed and then they contracted quite a bit. Countries need to basically make sure their house is in order. They have robust policy frameworks, they have clear medium-term plans, and they are undertaking the type of reforms necessary to promote economic growth.